A golden dawn softly fell on the endless expanses of the Serengeti Reserve. A light breeze carried the scent of dry grass, and the morning sun was reflected in the dew that covered the rare acacia bushes. In the shade of one of these trees, a small pride of lions settled. Among them, a small lion cub named Kaio stood out, whose fur had not yet acquired the thickness of an adult, and whose eyes shone with curiosity and energy. But in recent days, Kaio looked different. A painful abscess was red on his back thigh, because of which every step was a sharp pain. He hobbled, trying to keep up with the pride, but weakness was increasingly taking over. Kaio was the youngest in the pride, and his mother, a lioness named Nala, watched her son anxiously. She tried to lick his wound, but it did not help. The hunt was becoming more and more difficult. The adult lions brought prey, but Kaio, weakened by pain, could not fight for his share. Hunger and fatigue were exhausting his small body. The other lion cubs, his brothers and sisters, continued to play and frolic, but Kaio was increasingly left aside, lying in the shadows and breathing heavily. Gradually, the other lions began to move away, as if sensing that the baby would not be able to survive in the harsh conditions of the savanna. The midday sun beat down mercilessly, heating up the dry earth. Kaio, exhausted by the heat, lay under a lonely acacia. His breathing was intermittent, and the fur around the abscess became wet with pus. He tried to get up, but his weak paws trembled, and he fell again on the warm grass. The wind carried the distant sounds of antelope hooves, but Kaio did not have the strength to even lift his head. He felt how loneliness and despair were squeezing his little heart. One day, on a hot afternoon, a flock of hornbills landed nearby. Their bright beaks flickered among the dry branches as they pecked at the rare fruits that had fallen from the tree. One of the birds, curious and bold, noticed Kaio. Its black eyes settled on a red abscess, which it probably mistook for an unusual fruit. The bird cautiously flew closer and pecked at the inflamed skin. Kaio winced from the unexpected pain, but immediately felt a slight relief. Some of the pus flowed out, and the pressure in the wound decreased. He opened his eyes slightly, looking at the bird, which, frightened by his movement, flew away with the flock. Clouds covered the sun, and a cool breeze brought the lion cub some relief. He lay quietly, feeling the pain recede, although weakness still paralyzed his body. Hours passed. Kaio, gathering his last strength, crawled toward a small stream that gurgled a few dozen meters away. His small paws trembled, but he reached the water and drank greedily. The cold moisture revived him, and he lay down on the damp grass, closing his eyes. Night fell on the savanna, and a cold wind ruffled his sparse fur. Kaio curled up into a ball, trying to warm up, but by morning the abscess had begun to flare up again. Pus oozed from the wound, and the lion cub's body temperature rose. He was shaking, his breathing became heavy, and his eyes were clouded with fatigue. The silence of the Serengeti was broken by the sound of an engine that morning. A patrol jeep was driving along a dusty trail, carrying two experienced rangers, Amina Karim and Samuel Tanga. They regularly drove around the reserve, monitoring the animals. Amina, noticing a small silhouette under a tree, stopped the car. It was Kaio, the lion cub they had seen a few months ago, happily playing with his brothers. Now he lay motionless, and his condition alarmed the rangers. Samuel took out a tranquilizer, and Amina approached cautiously, judging the distance. A soft pop, and the dart with the tranquilizer hit its target. Kaio sighed softly and fell into a deep sleep. The rangers carefully lifted the small body, laying it on the soft cloth in the jeep. The car sped along the red dirt road to the Serengeti Veterinary Center. The sunset painted the sky crimson, and the wind carried the smell of approaching rain. In the car, Kaio's breathing was weak but even, and the rangers knew that time was against them. Upon arrival at the center, the veterinarians immediately got to work. They examined the abscess, which was seriously infected. The fur around the wound was carefully shaved, the pus was removed, and the wound was washed with antiseptic. Kaio was given antibiotics and painkillers, and was also hooked up to an IV to recuperate. He was placed in a warm cage with soft straw bedding, and a security camera monitored his condition all night. The rain pounded the roof of the center, drowning out all sounds, but inside there was a tense hope. The next morning, Kaio opened his eyes. His vision was clearer than the day before. The vets brought him a bowl of water, and he began to drink, albeit slowly. His fever dropped, and his breathing became more regular. After 3 days, he was able to stand up and take a few steps around the cage. The wound began to heal, no longer secreting pus, and the unpleasant odor disappeared. Kaio became more and more active, and his eyes lit up with curiosity again. A week later, the cub was moved to a spacious enclosure surrounded by trees and grass. Here he could run and play, gradually regaining his strength. The veterinarians released small animals into the enclosure so that Kaio could learn to hunt, developing his instincts. His movements became more and more confident, and his small body became stronger. Amina and Samuel often visited him, rejoicing at each new step in his recovery. One clear morning, the rangers decided that Kaio was ready to return to the wild. They opened the gates of the enclosure, and the fresh savanna breeze rushed in, bringing with it the smell of freedom. Kaio slowly walked out, his paws firmly stepping on the ground. In the distance, under the shade of an acacia tree, his pride was resting. Nala, his mother, looked up, noticing a familiar silhouette. Kaio quickened his pace, his heart beating faster. The lioness ran up to him, sniffed him, and gently licked his muzzle. The rest of the pride, brothers, sisters, and adult lions, surrounded him, greeting him with light touches of their heads. The reunion was quiet, but filled with warmth and joy. Kaio returned to his pride, becoming part of the family again. His little paws ran through the grass again, and his eyes sparkled with the joy of life. The savannah seemed to sing to him, and the wind whispered of a new beginning. Friends, thank you for taking the time to read this story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to support us. See you in the next wildlife stories.